Good morning, kindergarten. It is Tuesday, April 21st, and I'm back reading. This time, though, since we're back from break, I'm only going to be probably reading stories once or twice a week. And then on Fridays, we're going to have a thing called Fun Fridays, where I'm going to attempt to do some kind of a craft activity. Okay, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of our story today. Okay. So the story I'm going to read to you today is another Curious George book, and I have a lot of those, so I think I'll be reading that a lot from that series. Okay, and this one is Curious George Goes to the Beach by Margaret and H.A. Rays. Okay, and there's Curious George sitting there making sandcastles. Okay, and I understand that I think one of the words this week in your spelling is when. And so we're going to use when we think about what happens when Curious George does certain things, okay? All right, so let's get started with our book. Here's our title page. We repeat this title of the story and the author. Curious George Goes to the Beach by Margaret and H.A. Rays. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, the man had a surprise for George. He took George to the beach. They found a spot on the warm sand. Then, another surprise. George saw his friend Betsy. "Look, Betsy," her grandmother said. "It's Curious George." But Betsy did not even smile. She had never been in the ocean before. She was scared. Have any of you ever felt that way? Because the ocean can be kind of scary with the big waves. Yeah, it's not, as inviting maybe as a pool, because the waves can be kind of rough. "I know you're a good swimmer," the man told her. "You'll be fine once you get in the water." Feeling better, Betsy walked toward the shore with her grandmother. George helped spread the beach blanket and set aside their lunch. He was looking forward to a picnic, but it was not yet time to eat. Oh, there's Betsy. Now here's the picnic. There. Let's see if I can get this light down a little bit. Maybe. There we go. It was time to play. In no time, George was having fun. He learned a new game. Oops. He dug in the sand. Oops. He made a new friend. Monkeys are good at making friends. When he took a break, George watched the lifeguard. The lifeguard sat in a special chair. Sometimes he blew a whistle. Let's see. You see, this is George's, his new friend. And he's looking at the lifeguard chair over here. Before long, the lifeguard took a break. Here was George's chance. Uh-oh, what do you think George is going to do? Oh, I guess I missed a part. Okay, I'm sorry. And sometimes he looked through binoculars. It looked like fun to be a lifeguard. George was curious. Could he be a lifeguard? Before long, the lifeguard took a break. Here was George's chance. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, there goes George. Watching the crowd from up in the special chair, George felt just like a lifeguard. He looked through the binoculars. There was a lot to see at the beach. But is George a lifeguard? No. So sitting in a chair does not make you a lifeguard, does it? He saw seagulls flying high above. He saw Betsy on the shore below. He still had not been in the water. Then the lifeguard saw George. "Hey," he yelled, "that's no place for a monkey." George thought it was a fine place for a monkey, but he did not want to cause trouble, so he climbed down. Look at all the people in the water. Yeah, the lifeguard is responsible. Make sure all those people are safe. Yeah. Back at the beach blanket, George was hungry for a snack. No one would miss just one cracker, thought George. He took one out and put it on a napkin. It looked good. Now, if only he had some cheese. Uh-oh, what happened to his cracker? Well, he would just have to get a new one. George found another cracker, then turned back around. But now his cheese was gone. Who could be taking his snacks? George was curious. He put down his cracker and waited. You see these? Who do you think? Who do you think took George's cracker when he turned around? Now George saw who was taking his treats. It was a seagull, and he was still hungry. George took out another cracker, and the bird took it right out of his hand. What fun to feed a seagull! George saw more seagulls down by the water. Betsy was there too. George was curious. Could those seagulls be hungry? What do you think? I think seagulls are always hungry. Indeed, they were hungry. Soon a whole flock had gathered. George could not feed them fast enough. Luckily, Betsy was glad to help. Out of the basket came more crackers, cookies, a cake, and even the bread for sandwiches. Uh-oh, what do you think is going to happen? Still, the birds were hungry, but when George reached for more snacks, the basket was gone. He and Betsy were having so much fun, they didn't notice that the tide was coming in. Okay. See? The tide coming in, it means that the water's coming in up over the sand. They didn't notice a picnic basket was floating out to sea. George felt bad. He hadn't meant to lose the basket. Could there be a way to catch it? George thought and thought. Then he remembered the lifeguard. George was no lifeguard, but to save the basket, he knew just what to do. Quickly, he found a float and carried to the water. Jumping aboard, George began to paddle. Gotta save that basket. He paddled out a little farther, and a little farther, and a little farther, until finally he'd reached the basket. Betsy cheered. Then as George paddled back to the beach, Betsy swam out to meet him. Everyone was glad to see George safe on the shore. The lifeguard, who had seen everything from his chair, said, "That was some rescue." George felt proud. The man with the yellow hat picked up the basket. He was curious. "George, is this our basket?" he asked. What do you think? I bet his basket is light now. That's probably why it floated away. Ooh, these pages are sticking together. There we go. Poor George. After all that, the basket was empty. There would be no picnic on the beach, and it was all his fault. Then Betsy's grandmother said, "Won't you join us for lunch? We have plenty, and look, now we have a reason to celebrate." Thanks to George. They did have a reason to celebrate. Betsy was in the water, and she wasn't scared anymore. She was having fun. After everyone joined Betsy and George for a swim, it was time to eat at last. Look how much fun everyone's having in the water. There were sandwiches and chips, bananas, cookies, and watermelon. There was plenty for everyone. And there was even a little for guests. The end. Okay. Look at that great picnic. I am having a hard time with this camera. There we go. So, Curious George had some fun at the beach, and he had a lot of fun feeding all those seagulls, huh? Other stuff happened at the beach, too. So I want you to think about what did George do when he was at the beach? And I'll post this sentence, but it's going to start with, when George was at the beach, he, and then you can fill that in. And so have some fun with your journals. I know there's a lot of different stuff you're doing in your journal, so this is just one more thing. It's not mandatory. It's but it's fun and it's good practice. And I'd love to see your drawings when you get time, okay? So what I want to talk to you about on Friday is we're going to do a project called making rainbow dust. And you need to get these things. You should have them all in your house, but if not, maybe a trip to the supermarket, okay? So I'm going to post this up. So, whoops, paper in my notebook. Okay. All right. Do you see that? All right. So you'll need a little jar with a lid. You'll need some liquid food coloring. Okay. Like 3 colors, like red, yellow, and blue. Or you can use different colors. Whatever colors come in the pack. Okay. Then like 3 to 5 Ziploc sandwich bags. A cup of cane sugar. That's just plain old sugar that you use to put on your cereal or in baking. Then a skewer or a toothpick, something that you can poke with, because we're going to make, I'll show you, I guess, a little example of it, okay? But so like a toothpick, a tablespoon measurer, and a teaspoon measure. And this is going to be for measuring out our sugar, okay? So that's the list. All right, and you can kind of just freeze this, and then you can write that down or, look to see around the house and get that all together for Friday. And then we're going to make, let me show you. I made a little one, but I'm going to make another one. Rainbow dust. And the best part about this, okay, that's sugar that we've colored, is that you, when you're done with it, you can take the cap off and you can eat it. You can put it on your cereal or in tea. It's great for making as presents, okay? Great little gifts, okay? And the Ziploc bags, we're going to put our sugar in a Ziploc bag and then we're going to color it, okay? And I'll show you how you do that, okay? And we can make all different kinds of colors, all right? So, until Friday, all right? Thanks for watching. Have a great day.